to invite you to just simply close your eyes, relax, rest in the presence, and hold space.
Namo Namah Gam Ganapataye
Namaste.
Welcome.
Welcome to our weekly online satsang. If you're new to this, satsang basically means spiritual community. Wherever 2 or 3 followers of the spiritual path, whatever path that might be, come together, we have a satsang. Literally, it means community of truth, those that are on the path of truth. So welcome. This is an informal satsang. We come from different spiritual teachers and traditions, belief systems. What we have in common is awakening, transformation, and the flowering of our hearts, which means we have more in common than with many of the people that may be part of our particular belief system or tradition. So, welcome. This is a time when it's so important that humanity awaken and shift from the collective insanity of a global civilization rooted in competition, conflict, and violence to the birthing of a new global civilization rooted in cooperation, harmony, and peace. That can only happen when the collective consciousness of humanity shifts and begins to flower as a whole. That happens one person at a time. And so thank you for being part of this amazing time that we're living in and being part of the solution. Yep. We're sharing throughout these satsangs what we call the Flowering Heart Blessing. It's a transmission of divine grace, awakened consciousness and energy and presence. It's a gift directly from the divine source to assist those who wish to awaken and flower and transform. I really feel that 99+% of what's at work in the process of awakening and the flowering of the heart is pure grace. Grace is a gift from the divine itself. Usually it's given to those who have a strong intention, a strong purpose to awaken and transform, together with a dedication to persistent right effort. That's about 1% or less. And when we have that strong intention and that continual effort, right effort toward that goal of awakening and transformation, divine grace meets us. There's so many ways it's happening on this planet now. There's so many beautiful manifestations of grace. I like a lyric from a guy we enjoy, Michael Franti, who says, there are 1 billion different people doing 1 billion different things to make the world a billion...
Better, billion...
ways... Anyway, you get it. There are a lot of people on this planet who are really working diligently toward transformation, toward a shift in humanity. The divine is helping us. There are many transmissions of divine grace through various awakened teachers and spiritual communities. The Flowering Heart Blessing is, we think, special because when the divine gave us this particular grace, the presence told us this does not come through any particular tradition or religion or master or saint or spiritual organization or hierarchy. It comes directly from me. And it's a gift of grace, which means don't charge for it, because grace is something freely given. And the divine said, tell people who receive this blessing that the moment that they connect with this energy and this presence and receive it, they're initiated to be able to transmit it to others. It's something that the divine does through anyone who offers themselves as an instrument of grace and says, flow through me to help others awaken. Now, there are many others, I said, beautiful forms of spiritual blessing, and feel free. If you come from a group or a teacher that has their own form of blessing or Shaktipat or Diksha or whatever it may be called, if it's from the divine and its purpose is to awaken the heart to our divine nature, to our enlightened divine true self, please share it. But everyone is welcome to share the Flowering Heart blessing, and we encourage that and invite you to do that through the whole satsang. Just invite the divine to pour through you the grace that will help all the other participants with us this evening and those that view this video at any time in the future. And it'll flow through you immediately. Do we have any?
No, I don't think so this week.
I don't think so either. So we're going to open, well, before we move on, if you tune in and you get this far and you haven't given us a like or a love, please do that, unless you're going to make a comment in the chat, because we can go at the end, at least on Facebook, and we can see everyone that gave us a heart or a thumbs up and see your name, and we'll send a little extra hug in your direction. Vimeo, you folks would actually have to enter a comment, like, Moria, so nice to see you. I think it's been a while. But yeah, it just really warms our hearts to see and new visitors. That's really great.
She's the one that had all the great questions last week.
Oh, was Maria over here? Oh, okay. All right. So we're on several platforms. We're on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube, we're on Vimeo, and we're here on Facebook Live as well. And wherever you're joining us, welcome. It's great to have you here tonight. We spend the early part after this introduction of our evening taking questions and answers about the spiritual journey, about the path to awakening, the flowering of the heart. Our particular emphasis in the Flowering Heart Satsang is to point directly to the divine source that dwells within you at the center of your being. Many things outside of us promise to help us on our journey, and we've been helped, and I'm sure you have too, by many wonderful spiritual teachers and places of power and spiritual processes out there. But the out there is just a mirror. The outer world is a reflection of the inner world. And sooner or later, we discover that the light that we saw shining through our teacher's face or through the eyes of our guru, our teacher, was actually a reflection of the light that's shining out of the center of our being. And we're invited ultimately to look within and to journey to the center of the temple of our hearts and discover there our sacred divine self, and the discovery that it's already awakened, just awaiting our discovery. It's already completely divine, one with the divine. So much energy that's put in external efforts toward divine union and toward enlightenment are, while helpful at certain points in the journey, are sometimes misdirected, because we can remain locked into looking outside of ourselves for the rest of our lives for what was actually there all the time if we just looked within. And that's why we're constantly pointing to the flowering of the heart, because once we go deep enough inside, we connect with that place at the center of our being that's pure love and pure light, something begins to happen. That light, that pure unconditional love, begins to blossom from the center of our being and shine from the inside out, illuminating all the layers of our being, the spiritual core, the mental and soul layers of our being, where all the emotional charges and the wrong programming and all the pain resides, and out through our physical being, healing and transforming our physical bodies, and shining out into our relationships, transforming the way that we're relating to one another, and rippling out to the entire world and out to infinity from the inside out. So that's our emphasis, but we're glad to entertain any questions for clarification about the process of awakening, about the process of divine realization or God realization, reincarnation, anything you'd like further clarity and light on. Sometimes you throw things out to us and we don't have a clue. And we just turn inside and we listen to what the divine, the real teacher, is whispering inside. And so your questions catalyze a process that we all are strengthened by and helped by.
Oh, by the way, happy day of love.
Right. This is Valentine's Day. Relationships. Those are, that's where we really learn about ourselves, I think. Relationships reflect to us all kinds of things about ourselves that we could only see reflected in another back to us. And it provides the real arena of growth and self-knowing. So we'll wait a few minutes because I know you've got something in you that will spark a dialogue here. And we're in no rush.
You want to check the mail?
Yeah, I did. I'll do it again.
I think the last part of that song was, it's a billion people, billion different people doing a billion different things to make this world
a billion places better today.
Yeah.
A billion different people doing a billion different things to make a billion places better today. Sorry, Michael. I always screw up your lyrics. Michael Franti really is a great songwriter, and it's very, very positive stuff. And a lot of it, especially what he's produced in the last several years, is speaking directly to so much of what's going on in the world today in such a powerful way. He was touring and during the COVID lockdown, was stuck in Bali. So I think he fell in love with Bali, and some of the most beautiful creative stuff came out about how to really move in a positive light in the face of everything that's happening on Earth today.
Yeah, his songs just stick in our heads like mantras. It's pretty amazing stuff and pretty upbeat,
so
hopeful.
So if you need some cheering up, we can.
And he just makes me want to dance.
He makes everybody want to dance. Yep. And Charles wrote, the heart, the spirit of fire, and the mind, the spirit of water. Yeah. Nice. Yep. Beautiful.
Very beautiful.
Charles Robinson, a dear friend and ally, and the I don't know if we could say creator of Kai Chi Do. I guess we could, although it came from Shifu, I think. Charles' teacher in spirit many years ago, but so many, and maybe some of you have been touched by the beautiful, what's been described as a non-martial art that works with the 5 elements and movement and breath, and it's very beautiful. And we're so blessed to have you blessing and supporting us this evening. I feel it.
Yeah.
Yep. So, any questions? Always balancing water with fire. And that's very much at the heart of the Taoist internal alchemy that I've practiced for the last 50 years. It's always balancing water with fire. Yep. And, okay. Morey writes, I believe that everything is generated from within, but how can we explain the energy of love and friendship today? Well, I'm not quite sure how to frame that question, but while everything's generated from within, it's generated by we. There's some people that begin to get a hold of that truth, that the outer world I'm experiencing is a reflection of my inner state, and get into this mindset of I'm creating it all myself, which would be quite a burden to carry if we look at the world around us today, because this is something that we collectively are generating. And why the spirit and energy of love and friendship is so important. There's so much of the other that's been manifesting, so much lack of trust, lack of friendship, and downright hatred. And so the more that we can cement those bonds of connection and love with one another, it's infinitely more powerful. I mean, when it comes right down to it, all that really exists is love and light. But we can see the shadows, and we can see the resentments and the unforgiveness, but all of that is part of the illusion of separation. And so, while that, certainly we can see the power that that's exerting in the outer world today, the love that's generated through our connection with the divine source and sharing that together in spiritual community is infinitely more powerful and infinitely more contagious than any contagion people are worried about in the world today. Love is the ultimate contagion because it's divine gravity. Love is the divine. It's not something the divine does. Yes, the divine loves us and we love each other, but love isn't something we do, and it isn't a feeling or emotion. It's actually an aspect of the divine presence itself. And it has this quality of drawing us together with each other, but also drawing us into the center of the cosmic sun. You know, and on social networks. Well, I don't know what the question is. Social networks, we can shine it on social networks too. That's what we're doing tonight. We're using several social networks, and we're proclaiming and transmitting the solution, the medicine for everything that's ailing the world today. It's oneness and unconditional love and the flowering of the heart. And so, yeah, social networks need a lot of that, from what I hear.
Yeah. I've been really doing a deep meditation, especially the last several years, but more recently it's becoming a lot more clear. It's whenever I would hear some news or something that made me have confusion or conflict, I would just go into my heart and ask, is this my reality? And basically, if it wasn't coming from love, you know, compassion, surrender, and not my will, but thy will be done, then I would just have to meditate on it or release it from my consciousness and energy sphere. And I look around so much and I see people that are in division and out of unity consciousness, and I have deep compassion for them because they're very much in their minds, and their egos have to be right, and they want their decision to be right. No matter what it is, people want their decisions to be right. And that kind of surety about our mental constructs, I find to be kind of sad, because if it's not coming from a place of love or peace or clarity, which is where the divine resides, then it's coming from other. And that other is what's holding us arm's length apart. So the more that we can distinguish between and determine between, you know, is this just my ego wanting to be right, or is this because I heard somebody else say it and passionately believe it that I'm going to take that stand also, or is this coming from the place in my heart that is encompassing and in love? And when we start to get into that space, we have a greater capacity to love others outside of us and to connect with others outside of us, even the ones that we may not agree with. So for me lately, the mantra has been no sides, just heart, you know, because everybody wants to feel right. Everybody wants to feel like they're doing the best that they can. And sometimes they just need to be enveloped in unconditional love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The world has become so positional. Are you on this side or that side of every issue? And the witnessing consciousness, the higher consciousness that truly sees the bigger picture, is non-positional. It embraces yin and yang and brings it together in one.
And how can we do this more on social media? I think I mentioned a few weeks ago, I've just been seeing this quiet underground groundswell of positivity. I'm seeing it in bumper stickers. I'm seeing it in t-shirts. I'm seeing it in the way people are interacting. I'm seeing people genuinely connecting with our eyes with a really genuine smile. And I think some people are getting the memo that we just need to slow down and see each other and be with each other and be kind. Yeah.
Be kind. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Be kind, be kind, be kind. These are the three guidelines of the Dharma of Kuan Yin, the goddess of compassion. Be kind, be kind, be kind.
That's pretty easy to remember. Sometimes not always easy to execute, but...
Well, it has to come from genuine compassion.
Right.
And an awakened heart. So I'm sure a lot of us have thought when we took a particular position on some spiritual issue or political issue or scientific issue that and began to crusade for a particular point of view, we probably were coming from a motive of compassion, of wanting to be helpful. But if you really step back into the witness consciousness, you see that by crusading for one point of view against another point of view, we're just feeding the fires
more opposition.
Of opposition.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's something that I've really seen happening in myself lately, is that I'm, with greater clarity, noticing where I had become polarized about certain issues. And now I'm looking in the eyes of, as I always have done when I'm clear in spirit, in the eyes of the person who's wearing a coat that shows they're from the other side, and I'm not feeling any separation. I'm feeling, and I'm seeing them smile back at me, secretly thinking, if you really knew where I was coming from, you might not like me. But no, all of that has to melt away into oneness. And
because we're all connected. I don't know how many times it happens during the week that we'll just think of somebody and then they'll call or they'll text, or I think that veil of separation is getting thinner and thinner, and we're able to see some clarity through the curtain.
And Morey writes, on the other side, we resist love. It seems easier to be in other emotions. It's easier to slip into other emotions, but it isn't easier to be in them. To be in love is the only place where there's really ease. But yes, we have all this resistance, and that's what we are working through collectively as a human family. Resistance, I heard a really wonderful spiritual teacher say, resistance is the separate self in action. So if you wonder if you've still got an ego, most of us don't have to wonder, but if you wonder, or maybe, because I've known people and they have powerful awakening experiences, go, I've transcended the self. I'm free. And yet, the counsel that's sometimes given in that place is notice resistance when it pops up. Someone says something, you feel resistance. Someone acts a certain way, you feel resistance. A challenge to look at ourselves with clarity and honesty, and that resistance is the evidence and the presence of ego, of the separate self. And so releasing that resistance is something we can work on. But in the beginning, I discovered I was resisting resistance. Once I learned resistance was a big problem to opening to love, to opening to the Tao, the flow of nature, I saw resistance and I went, no, I will not resist. Well, I will not resist.
I will.
Resist. You can put a not in front of it, but every time it's I will not resist. Anyway, so I wasted a lot of energy trying to resist and overcome resistance through self-directed effort. And really what melts our resistance is the grace of the presence of divine love, it melts that away in a very tender and wonderful way. I would put myself through these ascetical, brutal, spiritual processes, all designed to break the ego and bring about surrender, to the divine. And actually, love is the way to do it. Often those efforts to break the ego, to put yourself through like fasting or intense hours of meditation in a cave, that kind of stuff can actually harden you. I think it helped break the Buddha. I think, because he dedicated years to all that kind of stuff, fasting and meditation and yoga practice, and sure, he learned a lot, and I've learned a lot, and you probably have too, from those ascetical practices. But finally it got to the point where it didn't free him. It broke him, and he sat down under the Bodhi tree and said, I quit. And within 9 days he was fully enlightened because he got out of the way, and grace was able to melt him.
We were just actually talking about this subject at our Wednesday night satsang, and we were saying, why wouldn't people just want to be in their hearts all the time, because it feels so good. And we kind of had this round table discussion, and it kind of got brought to light that a lot of people don't know how to be in their hearts. They've got so much pain or so many programs or so many charges that they're constantly in their minds, and what they think is love isn't actually real love. There's a condition to it. There's, I'll love you if you do this for me. Oh, I love you so much until we divorce. There's all these different kinds of what our concepts of love really are, and until we get into our hearts and feel the unconditional love from the divine, we have a hard time navigating life outside of the head and the ego. And so many people at this time are being kept by all of this input, and sensory input are being kept in the mind and the ego instead of stepping back and going into the heart. So a lot of people don't even know that they're suffering, or they may feel that they're suffering, but they can't understand why. And when we start to step out of that and experience the heart more, then we start to see what the ego is doing and the mind is doing, and we can distance ourselves from that, so we start making different choices based on what's in our heart and what we feel led to do from the divine. Like Michael was saying, my will, I'm going to figure this out and get this done. And another component to that is that a couple of years ago I was watching all this play between my head and my heart, and I realized when my ego would get boosted, it released an actual endorphin or a chemical reaction. My body got this shot of, wow, I feel really good. I was right, or I said this, or I did this, and when that would come up, I started to be able to recognize it, and I realized, so many people are addicted to their egos and their minds, and they don't even know it. So that's part of the solution, is to begin to recognize when we're getting that rush from our ego getting its way. But it's a bigger rush when the heart gets the way, because we know that there's that peace.
So what can we do to help people that are working through, growing through their resistance? Well, we can hold space for them. We can hold a space of acceptance, non-judgment, and unconditional love for them. And that's a space in which people can't help but flower. It just can't help. That's one of the things I loved about St. Francis. If you know my life story, I'm many things, but I'm also a Franciscan. And Francis would take the most unthinkably evil people, murderers and brutal people, and he would just unconditionally accept them and love them and welcome them into his heart. And some of those people were just completely broken in a good way, and went on to become full-fledged saints just because someone welcomed them as they were and didn't try to change them. Of course they needed to change. Of course they needed to grow. But sometimes the best thing we can do is just be a ministry of presence, where we bring and hold that presence of unconditional love, that presence of the divine spirit, and just don't say anything. Listen, embrace and welcome, and watch how people transform. It takes some time. It's worth it. I've always loved those instantaneous breakthroughs and cataclysmic awakenings, but some of the most rewarding fruits of a half a century of ministry for me have been people who were sometimes the most resistant members of the different spiritual communities that I helped to guide, and watch over time. I mean, you'd have to be willing to just wait a few years and watch the transformation, the slow, steady transformation, when we don't like try to force a catalyst down their throat, you know, but just, it's okay. Love you just the way you are. And know that over time, well, it's a flower's nature to flower.
Right.
But, you know, we learned that flowers need light and fertilizer and water. So in our effort to help, we may take a flower that we see as very resistant, that really needs to break out and blossom, and we blast it with water and drown it. We shine so much light on it, it fries. We put so much fertilizer on it, it can actually kill the process. Sometimes we just have to be patient. And that's one of the old spiritual arguments between Zen masters, between Rinzai and Soto Zen. But without getting into the technicalities, some Zen masters said enlightenment is instantaneous, and they would whack their students with a stick at just the right moment to catalyze that. That's Rinzai. Soto Zen said, no, it's just tranquil meditation. And the Buddha nature that's in all of us, it will just spontaneously, in its own time, flower and blossom. There's truth in both of those arguments, and no one's ever won that argument because they're great examples of both things. People being sort of jarred into full enlightenment instantaneously, but there are also countless people that have just blossomed. It is the flower's nature. It is our human nature to grow and to evolve and to ascend. So if we're just patient with ourselves and with others, that's where we're all going. No matter what it looks like, that's where we're going, individually and collectively. Great stuff.
Great stuff.
Thanks, Maureen.
Yeah, thank you.
And for those of you who have been quietly holding space,
yes,
sending blessings and support. Yeah. Okay, well, I think that's, I'm not seeing any more questions. It's
okay.
Not too late, but I'm going to invite everyone to close our eyes and to open to grace at the center of our being. Deep within you, welcome the divine source, the presence, to flood you with grace, and just begin to receive and drink it in. This presence within you is the source of all that exists. It is your true home. It is your true divine self, your essence. And it is all powerful, all knowing, and all loving. It is welcoming you home. All you need to do is consent to the presence. It knows exactly what you need. trust the presence to do in this moment what is perfect. Let your mind flow like water and cling to nothing. Let your heart burn with the fire of divine love. Imagine that we're all sitting together in a circle. Lift up your palms, with your hands open, your palms facing forward, and invite the presence to pour the flower situation, a burden for someone or someone else, put them in the center of the circle and release the situation to the divine itself. As we all take a strong intent for divine grace to flow into this circumstance and transform it and release it. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And now we'd like to invite you, and as soon as you're ready, relax your hands and relax somewhere. Open your eyes and begin to make direct eye contact with Suzanne and Omi. And that's all you need to do as we enter the light meditation. Suzanne and I are flooded with divine grace and light and love. It pours through every pore in our being to you, especially through our eyes. The eyes have been called the doorways of the soul. That light streams through our eyes, into your eyes, into your heart, causing flames of divine presence and light and love and transformation to burn ever brighter. meditating as long as it feels nice to you. Or lie down nearby in Shavasana. That means to lie on your back with your eyes closed, your arms loosely at your sides, and your palms open and turned upward, and just dissolve in your presence and gratitude. We love these gatherings of you. And we stay connected all the time.
Yeah.
But until we cross paths this way again, we want you to know that the divine in us beholds the divine in you, your true essence. And we bow to you. Namaste.
Namaste.